Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep into C# 12.0 today.
Yeah, really looking at all the new features they've packed in.
Should be exciting. So if you're a developer, tech enthusiast, or just curious about what's happening in .NET, well, buckle up.
We're going to break it all down, what these changes mean, not just for you as developers, but how this shapes the future of .NET applications.
Definitely. So let's just jump right into it. First up, we got to talk about primary constructors for any type. I got to say, when I first saw this, I was pretty stoked.
This is a big change.
Yeah. Simpler class definitions, putting constructor parameters right there in the class declaration.
Makes it so much easier to see what's going on.
Yeah. No more separate blocks for that.
Exactly. You look at a class, boom, right there. You know what it needs, like ingredients in a recipe, all laid out. Saves so much time and avoids errors, especially in large projects.
That's a great analogy. So you're saying no more separate constructor blocks at all?
Well, mostly. Primary constructors cover 80% of cases, super streamlined. But you might still need those separate blocks sometimes. For more complex situations, multiple constructors with different logic.
Okay, so it's there if you need that extra flexibility, but for most cases, primary constructors are the way to go.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And speaking of streamlining things, how about collection expressions?
Oh, those are a game changers, especially when you're working with complex objects, nested stuff.
Exactly. I had this project recently modeling user profiles, preferences, settings, linked accounts, the whole works. Without collection expressions, forget it. It would have been a nightmare.
Total mess. But with these expressions, it's so clean.
It's like you define the structure in a few lines. Like if you're building an online store with categories, subcategories, tons of products, it's all laid out clearly.
Imagine trying to do that without collection expressions. Pages and pages of code.
No thanks.
Here's a quick example. Imagine a category called electronics, then laptops as a subcategory, and then bam, all your laptops listed as products. Collection expressions make it look almost like plain language.
It's so much easier to read and understand.
Right, and it saves you a ton of time and effort.
Okay, moving on. Intercepted parameters. Now this sounds powerful, but also a bit like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, it gives you a lot more control. Think of it like this. You're a bouncer at a club.
Okay.
You check IDs, make sure everyone's dressed right, maybe even turn some people away. That's what intercepted parameters let you do in your code. Before any data gets into a method, you can inspect it, change it, even reject it.
So it's like a security checkpoint for your methods.
Exactly. Huge for things like validation. You make sure the data meets your criteria before it even touches the core logic of your method.
That makes a lot of sense.
Plus, it's not just about security. You can use it for logging, keeping track of what parameters are coming in, even tweaking parameters on the fly if you need to.
Wow, so many possibilities. All right, let's talk about something that's going to make Lambda lovers very happy. Default values for Lambda parameters.
Yeah, this is a great addition.
Huge for flexibility.
Big time. But before we get into it, let's just do a quick recap on Lambda expressions for anyone who might not be familiar.
Yeah, good idea.
So Lambdas are basically functions you can pass around like variables. Makes your code super concise.
Right.
Now, imagine you can give those Lambda parameters default values.
Okay.
They become even more reusable, adaptable to different situations, like a Swiss Army knife of functions.
So you're not writing the same code over and over again.
Exactly. And you can easily adapt your lambdas to handle different cases.
Yeah.
Here's a simple example. Say you have a lambda that calculates a discount. Without default values, you might need different versions of it for different discount rates.
Okay.
But with default values, one lambda can do it all. The discount rate's a parameter, but it defaults to a standard value. It's so efficient. And next up, we've got the evolution of switch expressions in C# 12.0. I'm really excited about this one. List patterns.
It's powerful.
You can match against lists or sequences of data right there in your switch statements.
Yeah, it's super elegant for handling complex logic. Imagine you're building that online store checkout. With list patterns, your switch expression can handle different scenarios, like an empty cart, one item, or a cart with specific combinations of items.
So you're not just checking for a single value anymore, but for patterns within a whole list.
Exactly. And the syntax is really intuitive. You can literally write, if the cart contains a book, NED, a gift card, all within the switch expression.
Very cool. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the ability to use static in interfaces.
This is a big one.
It changes how we think about interface design, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Now you can have static members, like methods and properties, right inside your interfaces.
Okay.
Think about utility functions that are useful across multiple classes implementing that interface. Now they can live right in the interface itself. Can you give us a practical example of that?
Sure. Let's say you have an interface for printable objects.
Okay.
You might want a static method called printAll, which takes a list of printable objects and prints them all.
Yeah,
Before, you'd have to define that method in each class that implements the interface. Now it can just live in the interface itself.
makes total sense. So much cleaner.
Right. Much more reusable. So we've covered a lot of ground here, all these new features in C# 12.0. But what does this really mean for developers out there?
It seems pretty clear. C# is getting more intuitive and powerful.
Definitely. These changes are part of a bigger trend, making programming languages not just powerful, but also human readable, like less deciphering a code, more like reading a good story.
I like that. So to all you listeners out there, go explore C# 12.0. Play with these new features. See what you can build. But as you do, here's a thought. How can we use these tools to not just build better software, but to actually enjoy the process of coding more?
Good question.
Make it less about struggling with syntax and more about bringing those creative ideas to life.
It's a shift, embracing expressiveness, clarity, using these tools to elevate our craft.
Absolutely. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep coding and keep exploring.
See you then. Bye. Bye.